questions on my mind. Looking for direction, needing strength for the climb. But there's a road that leads to freedom, a path where grace remains. That's why we're here together now. Welcome to Changing Lanes. We elevate the mind, healing in the heart, letting faith realize. From mental health to God's truth that breaks chains. Hope lies here, yeah. This is Changing Lanes. Grow down, walking purpose every day. Grow, learn, walk with purpose every day. Changing lane, gotta use way.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, Changing Lanes. Good evening. Tonight, Changing Lanes episode from the movie Fences. We're going to be discussing the character Rose Maxon, loving someone who is broken. On tonight, loving someone who is broken. I'm so excited, and I'm ready to get off into conversation with those of you that are in the chat and those that will be joining us in the chat. I'm so excited. I think this is an amazing breakdown of the movie Fences. All right, Changing Lanes episode tonight, loving someone who is broken, and I want to talk about the woman who lost herself loving someone else. And what Rose Maxon in the movie Fences teaches us about love, sacrifice, and finding yourself again. Welcome to Changing Lanes. This is a space where we slow down long enough to look beneath the surface. Because I've learned something about people. The behavior is usually not the whole story. The anger is not the whole story. The silence is not the whole story. The need to control everything is not the whole story. There is usually something underneath: a wound, a belief, a fear, a survival strategy. And if we don't understand what's underneath, we will keep trying to change what is visible while ignoring what is driving it. I'm going to say that again. If we don't understand what's underneath, we'll keep trying to change what is visible while ignoring what is driving it. So here on Changing Lanes, we use stories, relationships, movies, and life experience as mirrors, not to judge people, but to understand people. Good evening to everyone. Mother Arnold, Sister Charlene, Sister Barb, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. We're so glad to have you. Amen. Because every story is a mirror. And sometimes the person we're talking about is really showing us something about ourselves. Today, that mirror is Rose Maxon from Fences. As you know, this is one of my favorite movies. Now, this is not a movie review. Rose is not the topic. Rose is just the mirror. And the question I want us to sit with today is, what happens when your heart becomes home for someone who refused to heal? I'll read that again. I'll slow it down again and read that again. What happens when your heart becomes home for someone who refuses to heal? Because when we think about home, home is supposed to be a place of peace, a place where you can rest, a place where you can take off the armor, a place where you don't have to pretend. But what happens when your heart becomes a place where someone stores everything they refuse to deal with. What happens when your heart becomes the place where someone stores everything they refuse to deal with? They store their anger, their disappointment, their insecurity, their fears, their childhood wounds, their unresolved pain. And before long, you realize every room inside of you is filled with things that don't belong to you. After a while, you'll realize every room inside of you is filled with things that don't belong to you. And tonight, that's where we find Rose. One of the things that stands out about Rose is this: Rose didn't lose herself all at once, and neither do most people. Nobody, I don't think there's anybody that wakes up one morning and say, today I'm going to abandon myself. But it happens slowly. It's progressive. It happens slowly, and it happens progressively, that we can start to abandon ourselves. And how we start to abandon ourselves is one compromise at a time, one sacrifice at a time, one dream postponed, one dream ignored, one need ignored, one more time saying, I'm okay, when deep down, you know you're not okay. You know, I'm learning that when you ask people how they doing, uh, most people automatically respond with, I'm doing okay, or they may give you a cliche or something, but most people respond in a way that they're not responding in the actuality of how they're doing. They're responding in a way of what they want you to hear and think. And so I'm learning that. And so when deep down they know they're not okay, and if we can be honest with ourselves, we have those moments where we respond to people the same way, not from the reality of what we are and what we feel, but from the standpoint of we just automatically are accustomed. When someone asks us how we're doing, we're accustomed to saying we're okay, because uh, and there's a number of reasons for that. One of those reasons are we don't want people to feel like we're burdening them with our problems. We don't feel like some people going to understand our problems. We feel like some people not going to be able to help. So what's the point of talking about it? So there's a number of reasons why we say we're okay when we deep down we know we're not. And that's how people disappear inside relationships, not physically, emotionally. You can still show up, still smile, still work, still take care of everybody, but something inside you get quieter. You can do all that for everybody else, but something inside of you get quieter. And one day you look in the mirror and ask, when did I stop recognizing myself? In saying that statement, even when our physical don't change, emotionally we change. And a lot of times we don't even realize the change is taking place, because we spend so much time giving and giving and giving and being this and being that we really don't recognize what has happened on the inside of us. Series, yes. And so one day you may look up and ask, when did I stop recognizing myself? Have you ever had that moment? Have you ever had a moment like that when you looked at yourself and didn't recognize who you really were emotionally, internally? You knew who you are externally, but did you know who you are internally, emotionally? Did you recognize some of the changes that had taken place that you weren't even aware had took place? And so many people stop recognizing who they are because of the things that have happened around them. And this is where Rose becomes a deeper conversation tonight. Because Rose was strong, y'all. She was strong. And I don't think that's the question about Rose tonight. I think we need to ask a different question. I think we don't need to question how strong she were. We may not even need to deal with how strong she were. Because I think the better question and the better insight is this. Not how strong she were, but what did her strength cost her? What did her strength cost her? Because strength has been a survival language for many of us, especially in the Black community. We come from people who survived things that should have broken them. We come from women who raised children while carrying their own pain. Women who worked, prayed, they sacrificed, and kept families moving. People who knew how to survive. But here's the question tonight. They learned how to be strong, but did anybody teach them how to heal? We've learned how to be strong, but did anybody teach us how to heal? And I think that's one of the most important questions tonight. What did Rose's strength cost her? People taught us how to be strong, but they didn't teach us how to heal. Because survival and healing are not the same thing. Survival says, I can get through this. Healing says, I don't have to keep carrying this. Survival helps you make it. Healing helps you become whole. And I want to be careful through here tonight, because don't take my content out of context. Don't take my context out of context. Because what I'm not saying is, I'm saying strength is beautiful. Somebody said having strength caused her not to experience love from her husband. Yes. I want to be careful, because strength is beautiful. Please do not get me wrong. Strength is beautiful. Sacrifice is beautiful. Loyalty is beautiful. But sometimes the very things that helped us survive can be the things that prevent us from healing. I would ask the question tonight, who takes care of you? If you're always the one everybody else calls, who do you call? If you're always everybody's safe place, where's your safe place? You know, I was talking to someone the other day, and I shared a comment. I said, we keep going to be the go-to people, and sometimes people will call you. Oftentimes, people will call you, never ask you how you doing, and just go straight into what they got going on. Because sometimes we can show and make it seem like we're so strong that we never go through anything. But regardless of the strength that we have, we all go through things, and we all need somebody else that we can go to. We all need a safe space. We all need a safe space that we can turn to, that we can run to, that we can go to, that we can have our woosah moments. But think about Rose. Let's think about Rose. Throughout the movie, who was Rose's safe place? Who was her safe place? Oh yes, there's so much. Who was Rose's safe place? Now we do recognize that she in the latter parts of the movie she devoted a lot of time to church. She devoted a lot of time to church, But so that is a part of the movie that we know she was a church woman, and we know she did a lot with the church. After Troy severely damaged her, when we saw her get really involved in the church. I think it went one scene where she was baking cakes to take down to the church. And I want to ask you a question since I mentioned that. I want to ask you a question. What do you do when what you run to don't help? Because let me ask you a question. I'm just asking a question. I'm not saying this will happen. I'm just asking a question. What if the church told her, pray, go home, love your husband, and you stick by that man? What if those were the words of the church? I'm going to ask the chat for your opinion. Does that help? Pray, go home, love your husband, and you stick by him. What do you do when where you run to offers no help? I'm not saying it didn't help. I'm just asking in the chat. It's just a question. So I don't want nobody getting in the chat talking about prayer works every time. I didn't say it didn't. I'm just asking a question. But where's your safe place? Your safe place. Who else asked Rose what she wanted? Who asked Rose what she dreamed about? Who asked Rose what she needed? Because sometimes the people who hold everybody else together are the people nobody thinks to check on. I heard somebody say one time, they was talking to another person, and the other person said, nobody checks on me, and they said nobody, I don't hear from y'all. Nobody calls me when I'm struggling, and when I was down, nobody even said a word. And the person replied with this that says, you always act and talk like you don't never get down. And the person did not understand the statement, but I did. Sometimes the show of our strength and how strong we can be sometimes hinders people from trying to help us because they feel like you don't need help. Barb says you have to pull yourself together and realize who and what you're dealing with and go from there. Yes. Who asked Rose what she needed? Because sometimes the people who holds everybody else together are the people nobody else checks on. And here's something else I want to talk about. There's an old saying, and I want y'all to catch this. I want y'all to catch the saying. There's an old saying. It says, don't set yourself on fire to keep somebody else warm. Don't set yourself on fire to keep somebody else warm. And you know what? Honestly, I really think that statement describes a lot of people. A lot of us burn ourselves out trying to keep everybody else comfortable. A lot of us give until they have nothing left. We pour out until the cup is empty. We sacrifice until we don't even recognize ourselves. And here's the thing about fire. Fire can provide warmth, but uncontrolled fire consumes everything. Fire can provide warmth, but uncontrolled fire consumes everything in its path. And sometimes people don't realize they're burning because everyone around them keeps saying, you're strong. I got to read that again. Sometimes people don't realize they're burning because everyone around them keeps telling them, you're so strong. You're so amazing. I don't know what I would do without you. But you know the question nobody asks? What is that costing you? What is that costing you? You keep setting your fire. You keep setting yourself on fire so others can stay warm. And the question tonight is, what is that costing you? Good evening, Auntie. What is that costing you? Everybody's comfortable, but you. You burning. You on fire. You burning. But everybody around you is warm. And nobody stops to ask you, what is this costing you? I heard somebody say, I heard this saying one time, and I really liked it. I heard a preacher say that. He said, salvation is free, but it costs Jesus everything. Salvation is free, but it costs Jesus everything. Other people comfortability, what is it costing you? Let me say something that may be difficult. Sometimes we don't just lose ourselves because someone takes from us. Sometimes we lose ourselves because we believe our value comes from what we provide. Sometimes we don't lose ourselves because somebody takes something from us, but sometimes we lose ourselves because we believe our value comes from what we provide. We believe this: if I can fix it, I'm valuable. If I'm needed, I'm loved. If everybody depends on me, then I matter. But our value was never supposed to come from how much of yourself you can give away. Somebody said, Mother Arnold said, we can't see the fire for the smoke is blocking our view. Your value was never supposed to come from how much of yourself you can give away. Your value, you were valued before you rescued anybody, before you fixed anything, before you became everybody's solution. You was already valuable. You don't have to give all of yourself away to be valuable. I told my mother not too long ago, I told her, I said, you need to sit down and you need to stop. I said, you run for everybody else. I said, at some point you're going to have to stop. I said, because I said, you're going to run yourself in the grave and everybody else going to keep on living. I said, just find somebody else to take up the spot you were taking. Your value is not in giving all yourself away. You were valuable before you fixed anything, before you rescued anybody, before you became everybody's solution. And I think this is where Rose teaches us something powerful tonight. Rose had dreams, y'all. Rose had a voice. Rose had a life. But somewhere along the way, she became committed to protecting the relationship that she stopped protecting herself. She became so committed to protecting the relationships that she stopped protecting herself. If you go when you look at that movie, she spent a lot of her time protecting Troy and his brother relationship. Troy and his elder son relationship. Troy and the younger son relationship. Her relationship with Troy. She spent the majority of her day trying to protect the relationships of everybody else that she stopped protecting herself. And that happens. That really happens. Sometimes people don't tell you to shrink. Sometimes people don't tell you to shrink. Sometimes you shrink because you're trying to keep the peace. You stop speaking because it's easier. You stop dreaming because somebody always needs something. You stop growing because growth makes people uncomfortable. You become smaller so everyone else can feel bigger. But healthy love should never require you to disappear. She disappeared in her relationship with Troy. Let me ask you this, and you don't have to say anything. But how many of you can think back on a time in your life or some of your relationships that you decreased who you were just to keep the peace? You didn't say what you wanted to say because you wanted to keep the peace. You didn't bring up conversations you really wanted to have because you wanted to keep the peace. Because you felt like if you brought up a conversation that you wanted to have that they didn't want to have, then there was going to be turmoil. Or you would get blamed for always starting something. Or you would get blamed for not understanding. And so sometimes we walk around on eggshells in our own environment because we don't want to offend people. We want to keep the peace. We don't want to start an argument. But all of us should be free to speak peace. Speak our peace, our thoughts, our desires, our cares. All of us should be able to speak our heart without feeling like there's consequences to speaking or consequences for feeling. How many of you stopped dreaming because everybody else needed something? I tell people all the time, there's a whole lot of people that want to go to college. There's a whole lot of people who want to move to another state. There's a whole lot of people who want to do certain things, but they didn't do them because they put themselves on the back burner for somebody else. And parents, we do it all the time for our children. We do it all the time for our children. Some of us stop growing because growth makes people uncomfortable. Some of us will stay in a bubble because our growth makes other people uncomfortable. I'm gonna let that one sit because that could go in all areas of our life. From relationships to church to work, sometimes we quiet ourselves around other folk that go to the same church because what we think they may feel about us. I've seen folks in church know what they're talking about, but won't even say nothing because they was afraid of how other people were gonna feel. You become smaller so someone else can feel bigger. Man, I know I did. Auntie Lily's high, man. I know I did. I had to call on Jesus, and there you go. We can't see the fire so true when we stop protecting ourselves. Don't man, we are being loved. Doesn't mean we are being loved. Sometimes we're being used. Correct. But healthy love should never require you to disappear. You should never have to disappear in love. There's a difference between compromise and self-erasure. I can't say that word right, so I'm gonna try it again. Self-erasure. You know the eraser come on the end of a pencil. See, I can say eraser, but somehow trying to say this word erasure, it don't sound right. There's a difference between compromise and self-erasure, y'all. Compromise says one thing. Compromise says this: we both adjust. We both got to make some adjustments. I need to change, you need to change. I need to do this, you need to do it. We both got some work to do. But here's what erasure says. Erasure says only one of us disappears. But healthy love makes room for two whole people. Healthy love makes room for two whole people. I almost said old people. Healthy love makes room for two whole people. Healthy love does. Healthy love. You know, I've been told that I don't know how true it is, but I've been told, and I'm learning to start listening to stuff I'm told, whether I agree with it at the moment or not, or whether I really want to accept it or not. I've learned to listen, and you know, I might not tell that person that I listened and that I took it and I got it. I may tell them 2 or 3 days later, I've been told that I like to get my point across and then don't hear nobody else's. If that is true, and I'm not saying it's true, but if it's true, because I'm not saying it's true. If that is true, that means whoever said that about me, I've caused them to disappear in whatever type of role they play in my life because I'm erasing them from I'm trying to erase them from their feelings. And so, and if we all be honest, I'm not saying you when I say all, but if most of us be honest, one thing we all can agree on, I ain't gonna say we all agree on. One thing I can say, you know, a lot of us like to be right, even if it means holding on to wrong. That's right. Don't let your madness go too far. Talk about. You know what, Auntie? Oh Lord, Brenda Honor, Mother Honor, go to bed. She talking about most men are like that. Don't be attacking men on here. I'm a man. No, I'm just playing. But Auntie, you're right. That you know, here's something that I really I heard. I read this and I loved it. It says, just because we argue at 2 o'clock don't mean we still ain't going to dinner at 6 o'clock. Just because we fall out at 2 o'clock don't mean we still not going to dinner at 6 like we had already planned. One of the worst things you can do is hold anger when the situation is already over. And if we be honest, most of us ain't mad but because somebody didn't agree with our opinion. Y'all think about it. Most of the stuff we get mad about simply because somebody don't agree with what we agree with or think how we think. Because most arguments, really, a lot of them don't really have a lot of facts to it. They just have a lot of feelings to it. I feel like this. I feel you did this. I feel like you should have did it. That's a whole lot of felts. All right, I'll get off that. There's a difference between compromise and self-erasure. Compromise says we both adjust. Self-erasure says only one of us disappears. Healthy love, y'all, healthy love makes room for 2 people, 2 voices, 2 dreams, 2 people becoming. Let me give you a picture. Imagine you're hiking, right? You have your backpack and I have mine. Halfway through the journey, you get tired. So I help carry yours. That's love. That's compassion. And that's partnership. But what happens when every mile you hand me your backpack? Now I'm carrying mine and yours. And you're getting stronger because, and you're not getting stronger. Wait a minute. You carrying I'm carrying mine and I'm carrying yours. And you're getting stronger because I removed the weight that was meant to strengthen you. You're not getting stronger because I removed the weight that was supposed to strengthen you. Sometimes, and I know this is hard to believe, but sometimes we handicap people. We become a dangerous crutch for people because we want to take all the weight off them. But it is the weight that most of the time is going to make you strong. You're getting better because I removed the weight that was meant to strengthen you. But eventually I realized I'm getting exhausted because I'm carrying yours and mine. And really, we never learned how to carry. We didn't learn how to carry our own load. That's what happens when we take responsibility for work another person refuses to do. Oh my God, that is amazing, right? That's good. That's what happens. When we take responsibility for work another person refuses to do. I'll give an example of what I mean by that. I say it all the time that there are some wounds, there are some things people have going on that we can't fix. If you didn't break it, you probably won't be able to fix it. There are some things that people have that happened in their past, happened as a child. You had no responsibility to it. You was not there. You had no cause or effect to it. You just happened to fall in love with the person. You just happen to fall in love with the person that went through it. And all of a sudden, when you get married or y'all get in a relationship, you start seeing behaviors come out that's a result of the trauma that they experienced. And the first thing you want to try to do is try to fix it. And before you know it, things have gotten worse because you tried to fix what you didn't break. You know, we know that you are not going to everything each other talk about, but love keep you going. That's right. You're not going to agree on everything. Not. I was thinking the other day as I was riding down the road. I was thinking how some people want to be a surgeon. They want to repair everybody. Everybody come in their life, they try to have an answer. You know, I've learned that sometimes we do more damage by coming up with answers when we really don't have one. Instead of just providing a space for that person to heal, we try to tell them how to heal. And oftentimes we telling people how to heal when we never healed. That's what happens when we take responsibility for work another person refuses to do. How many you listen? So man, you about how many you how many you ever seen, how many you ever witnessed or came across or know somebody uh that there's things they need to do for them to be better, for them to be better, but they refuse to do it. And then somebody always making excuses for them, or somebody always carrying their weight, or somebody always trying to do the work for them. You know, a friend of mine. Sometimes we just need to be a listening ear. Yes, a sounding board. Yes, yes. You know, I'm very intentional with that now. I ask people when people ask me if I have time to talk. I ask questions. I ask a question from the get go. I asked them. I said they need to talk to me. I said, well, I said let's identify this. I said, do you want me to be a list? Do you want me to just listen, or do you want me to respond? Because if you want me to listen, I'm just going to sit here and listen. I don't have no answers. I don't have no opinions. I'm just going to listen. Because sometimes that is all people need is a listening ear. Now, if you say you want me to respond, then you have to, I hope you're okay with my response. But sometimes people do just need a listening ear. And sometimes that's hard. Do you know how hard that is for some people to be a listening ear because they feel like they always got to fix it? You know, sometimes you can be around people and they constantly ask you what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, and you keep saying nothing, nothing, nothing. Now, I will say this: we're probably wrong for saying nothing when we know it is something. So I think the appropriate thing to be able to do sometime is just say, hey, you know, I got some things on my mind, but you know, right now I don't want to talk about it, or I don't feel like talking about it. You know, is going to get the situation resolved. It's something I need to process and we can do that. Somebody said I need you to do both. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Listen, if you agree to everything in a relationship, you don't have a relationship. As we said earlier, You just can't. You just trying to carry somebody else's load because there's no way two people from two different backgrounds, from two different raises, from two different houses, from two different parents are going to with two different economic backgrounds, social backgrounds, education background. There is no way those two people are going to agree on everything. Those two people can agree to disagree. But I think one of the reasons why we have a hard time with that is because we only see conversations right or wrong. Okay, if two people having if two people, if me and my wife are having a conversation, and she says how she feel, and I say, well, that's not right. You're wrong. Okay. First of all, I need to stop long enough to understand. She just said this is how she feels. She never said she was right. She just said this is how she feel. Now, if she said, well, this is how I feel, and I'm right, then what she's basically saying to me, no matter how you feel, you're wrong. So now my feelings are wrong, even though they're mine. See, all of us can have feelings. It doesn't make them right or wrong. Just make them ours. She may not like the way she may not like the way I approach something or I'll do something, but that's her feeling. It doesn't make her right. It doesn't make me wrong. She just don't like it. Let me give you a picture. Imagine you're hiking. You give me your backpack. You gave me your backpack. Oh, okay. So I'm carrying yours and mine. Eventually, I become exhausted, and you never learn how to carry your own load. Do y'all know? Do you know? Do you know? So many times we are surrounded by a lot of people who don't know how to carry their own load, and they will actually put their load off on us. In the area of my work, that's one of the things that we often have to really pay attention to is that when you have so much dumped up on you, and I don't mean the word dump disrespectfully. I just mean, for lack of a better word, when you have people emotions and their tears and their pain and their suffering, their past, their trauma, their child, when you have those things dumped on you, they don't always leave when the client leaves. Sometimes that stuff go home with you and it's embedded in your mind. And so you have to find a way that you may have carried that load, but you have to find a way to unload it. Because if you don't unload it, it's going to rub off in your personal life and to the next person that didn't even give you the information. Let me ask this, and y'all don't have to answer. I want you to tell off on yourself. How many of you have went to work? I mean, you don't went to work or school, and you got into it with somebody there, or you had work with somebody there, and you just couldn't let it go. I mean, that thing stuck with you all day. By the time you got home, you never learned how to unpack. You never learned how to let weight go. So by the time you get home, everything in your house is in trouble. You biting folks' head off, you snapping. Do you all remember? That's right, and that don't mean you or she is mad. You just don't agree with each other at the time, right? Mother Hunter said detox. Get your mama. Uh, do you remember? I don't know if y'all remember, but Tyler Perry had a what you call it? It was one of his plays, but it wasn't the. It was more like the play, not the movie. It was about Daddy Charles, um, and his son, who was married to, who was married, and his son was actually had a woman at work or a woman outside of the house, and one day the son came home and he was just yelling. He was just screaming. He was just, I mean, he was mad at everybody. And his wife thought it was about her. And his father said, boy, let me talk to you. He said, what woman in them streets that made you mad? He said, oh, Pops, ain't no woman made me mad. What are you talking about? I just had a rough day at work. He said, son, he said, I carried mail for all them years. He said, I had never missed a route. He said, one day I missed one. He said, and I was mad as you can be. But he said, I didn't come home doing that. He said, that ain't work. He said, that was a woman in the streets that made you mad and you bringing it home. Actually, see what happens sometimes people outside make us so angry that we don't know how to unpack it. We don't know how to unload it, that we bring it home and it affects everything else. This is true in your role as pastor. Sometimes you pour so much into others that you need to be. You got that right. I had one. The day was the day. I needed it. Man, because that and even my role and a lot of you all roles as well. You give. You give. And I'm learning. I'm slowly learning. Like I said, these things I talk about on the podcast. I know a lot of people may not think that I even pay attention to them, but they help me as I get them prepared for you. They help me because one thing through this one that we're doing tonight that I learned. We read it earlier. For those of you came on a little later, we read it. It says, let me find it. It says this. It says sometimes we don't lose ourselves because someone takes from us. Sometimes we lose ourselves because we believe our value comes from what we provide. We believe if I can fix it, I'm valuable. If I'm needed, I'm loved. If everybody depends on me, then I matter. But your value was never supposed to come from how much of yourself you can give away. You were valuable before you rescued anybody. And see, sometimes we get in this role of I have to burn myself out. I have to exhaust myself for everybody else to be happy. I caught myself today. Matter of fact, Dr. Tidwell, what you saying that I caught myself today. I was in a conversation at work, and I caught myself saying, well, I guess it ain't about me. I just want everybody else to be happy. And I caught myself and I'm like, no, that's the thought process we changing now. We changing that process. We changing that thought process because you can't not worry about you and everybody else be happy. Now, you see what I'm saying? That goes back to what I said earlier. Some of us keep setting ourselves on fire so that others can keep warm. And we're burning out. But other people are comfortable. Other people are comfortable. And a lot of us have that. We stay on fire. We stay on fire. We stay on fire. We'll minimize who we are so that the relationship can last. We'll take a back seat so somebody else can shine. We will give our last and be hungry. And the sad thing about it is that person goes hard on the ones that's at home trying to make home peaceful, but the outside person. Now we get into some nitty gritty now. Let me see the rest of the bar come in. We get into some really nitty gritty now. The other person gets a slap on the. I'm gonna have to read that one out loud, but I think that's gonna hit. Oh Lord, it said. And Sister Barb said, my sister-in-law, she said, and the sad thing about it is, a person goes hard on the one that's at home trying to make home peaceful, but the outside person gets a slap on the wrist. Lord Jesus, Lord, I think I done heard that one about myself before. Okay. Oh Lord. Because y'all know some of mine said, boy, I've heard this. Pastor, you so hard on us, but you don't say nothing to nobody else. Oh Lord, I'm about to go ask for forgiveness, y'all. Yeah. That is true though. It's true. It's true. That is a true statement. I'm really processing that statement. I mean, that's a mouthful, Bart. I ain't quiet because I ain't got nothing to say. I'm just trying to process. I'm gonna come back to that one. And the sad thing about it is a person goes hard on the one that's at home, trying to make home peaceful. Mm, 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 mm. Wow, that's a mouthful. I'm gonna let that. Hey, everybody in the chat, y'all need to let that one sit for a minute, and you're getting strong. Okay, so let me choose. Whose backpack are you carrying? Let me ask y'all this before I move on. How many of you all, if you be honest, and you don't have to put it in the chat. I just want to, because a lot of this stuff I just want you to sit with. But how many of you all, how many of us take responsibility for work? How many of us are taking the responsibility for work that another person refused to do? There doesn't have to be a spouse. It could be a mother. It could be a father, brother, sister, cousin. It could be anybody. Bob, you stated the truth and shamed the devil. Oh, yeah. A lot of us have taken on the responsibilities for the work that somebody else refused to do. You know, we had brother Bernard, and y'all know him in the chat as I saw it a few minutes ago. I done called him Bernard for so many years. Now his real name Calvin Bernard too. Well, Bernard, we call him Bernard. But he was teaching on last night, and he was just talking about, you know, the accountability of self and how growth is individually, that everybody doesn't want the same growth. How much responsibility you gonna take for work somebody else refused to do? If I got some issues and I refuse to do the work to help my issues, why are you carrying that responsibility for me? Do you know it is that type of behavior that brings about resentment and anger? You know, I tell people all the time, you know, when I was in Bible college, they said that you should be able to get 5 to 7 sermons out of a text. And when we talk about Jonah, most of the time, we only hear people really talk about the book of Jonah from the standpoint of, and especially describing us, of wayward, defiant, running from God. And that's really the only key figure in that text that we actually really talk about. But there are some other key figures in there that we could talk about. That's some other character. We could talk about the fish. The fish got a sermon. We could talk about the sailors because they got 2 or 3 sermons on them, within them. And one of them is this. Do you remember when the storm came? And when the sailors got in the storm, the Bible said they was rowing and they was rowing and they was rowing. They were tiring themselves out. They were putting in all this effort to get through the storm. And to one of them said, "Hey, what that guy that got on the boat? What that guy that got on the boat?" In other words, they were saying, "What Jonah at? Because we ain't noticing him doing nothing. Where he at?" And one of the other guys said, "He down there in the bottom of the ship sleep." He down there in the bottom of the ship sleep. So if I had to preach that, here's what it would be. Some of us are working harder for others than others are working for themselves. You putting in work, they sleeping. You are praying, they sleeping. You trying to figure out how to make things better, they sleeping. You doing all the work that they refuse to do. Okay, let me move on before I get in trouble with that one. Let me ask a question tonight. Whose backpack are you carrying? Whose emotions have become your responsibility? Let me ask you, why should y'all really pay attention? Whose mood determines your peace? Whose mood determines your peace? Jesus, that's a good one. Whose healing have you made your assignment? And here's the hardest question. I want you to sit with this for a second. If they never changed, would you still be okay? if they never changed, would you still be okay? Now, understand this. This isn't about blaming Rose. This is about learning from Rose. We're learning. We're not blaming her. We're not judging her. We're learning from her tonight. Maybe Rose needed to tell herself the truth sooner. Maybe she needed to set some boundaries. Maybe she needed to understand that having needs didn't make her selfish. Maybe she needed to remember that loving someone does not require losing yourself. And maybe that's the lesson for us. Love people, support people, believe in people, walk beside people, but don't disappear trying to save people. Here's where we change lanes. This week, I want you to ask yourself, where have I abandoned myself? Where have I been silent when I needed to speak? Where have I been given from an empty place? Where have I confused being needed with being loved? Don't judge yourself. That's not what I'm asking you to do. But I want you to ask yourself, where have you abandoned yourself? Where have you been silent when you really needed to speak? Where have you been giving from an empty place? Where have we confused needed with being loved? I want you to notice something, because awareness always comes before change. Awareness always comes before change. Watch this. Before we close tonight, I want you to imagine something. Imagine taking off every backpack that you've ever carried. Imagine taking off every backpack you've been carrying. The guilt, the pressure, the responsibility, the expectations, and imagine placing them down. Not because you don't love people, but because you finally understand you can love someone without carrying what belongs to them. You can walk beside someone without losing yourself. You can have compassion without abandoning your heart. I want you to sit with this thought as we close. Love cannot do someone else's healing. One of the hardest lessons I've had to learn as a life coach is this: love is powerful, but love cannot do another person's emotional work. There you go, Auntie. But love cannot do another person's emotional work. You can encourage someone, pray for someone, support someone, believe in someone, walk beside someone, but you cannot heal someone who refuses to heal. Because healing is a decision. Nobody can make that decision for another person. And I wonder how many people are exhausted because they've been trying to do the work that never belonged to them. Can I ask you a question? Have you been confusing your love with their responsibility? Because they're not the same. And this is what I want you to remember. Rose didn't lose herself because she stopped loving. She loved Troy. Oh my gosh, she loved Troy. She didn't lose herself because she stopped loving. Rose lost herself because she forgot that she was someone worth loving too. Don't forget yourself. Don't forget your dreams. Don't forget your voice. Don't forget the person you were before you became responsible for everybody else's happiness. I want you to sit with this statement. I really want you to sit with this one. I really want you to sit with this one tonight. I need your focus for a second. I really want you to hear this. You can open your heart to someone without handing them the deed to your identity. You can open your heart to someone without handing them the deed to your identity. And I hope that goes far beyond what we would think as husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend relationships. Because some of us as parents have handed our kids the deeds to our identity. We don't dream anymore. We don't do things that make us happy anymore. We've handed the deed, we've handed other people the deed to our identity. You can open your heart without handing them the deed to your identity. Tonight, I pray, hope you got something out of this. If nothing else, take a moment, breathe, and ask yourself, do I recognize the inner me? Have I lost myself trying to keep everybody else together? And I want you to ask yourself this. If you are the one that keeps setting yourself on fire so others can keep warm, I just want you to answer this to yourself tonight. How much is it costing you? Can't keep pouring into vessels with holes. That's right. That's right. And some of us continue to keep pouring into vessels with holes in it. And we become frustrated because the vessel won't hold what we're pouring. Until those holes are repaired, patched, or covered, it cannot hold what you're pouring into it. Tonight, my final words is take the time, invest in you again, find you again, and don't keep setting yourself on fire so other people can stay warm. Until next time, keep changing lanes. We'll see you next Thursday. Good night. God bless you. We love you. And thank you for all your support. Change lanes.